Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every person's life when you realize that chaos is not a personality trait, confusion is not a destiny, and being overwhelmed is not your identity. Sometimes life gets loud, messy, scattered, and heavy, not because you're incapable, but because you've been living on survival mode for far too long. And survival mode can keep you breathing, but it can't help you build. There's a point where you must look at your life, your habits, your patterns, your priorities, and say enough is enough, not because everything is falling apart, but because you're finally ready to step into something better. Forcing yourself to organize your life isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. It's choosing to stop letting life happen to you and start shaping life with intentionality. You don't rise to greatness by accident. You rise by making decisions that honor who you're becoming, not who you've been. When you start organizing your life, you're telling your mind, your emotions, your spirit, and your future that you're done with running in circles. You're ready for clarity, you're ready for peace, you're ready for structure that supports your purpose. You want to change your life. Start by changing your routine. Start waking up with intention instead of obligation. Start cleaning the spaces that have been holding yesterday's version of you. Start releasing the clutter that reminds you of moments you've outgrown. You can't build a new life while holding on to old mess. And sometimes the physical mess is just a reflection of the emotional mess you've been avoiding. Organizing your life becomes a form of healing because it forces you to confront what you've been ignoring. There will be days when you won't feel like doing it, days when motivation is nowhere to be found, when discipline feels too heavy, when progress feels too slow, but those are the days that matter most. Those are the days where your future is shaped. Growth doesn't happen in comfort, it happens in commitment, and commitment is not a feeling. It's a decision you keep making even when your feelings wave the white flag. When you force yourself to organize your life, you're building muscle, mental muscle, emotional muscle, spiritual muscle. You're developing the strength to handle the blessings you're praying for. Clarity enters when chaos exits. Peace enters when structure returns. Confidence rises when order replaces confusion. Don't underestimate what a clean desk, a planned day, a healthy routine, or a clear mind can do. Sometimes the miracle you're waiting for is hiding behind the discipline you keep avoiding. You are capable of so much more than the scattered version of your life has shown you. You are worthy of a life that feels whole, grounded, stable, and intentional. You don't need perfection, you need direction. You don't need to change everything in one day. You just need to begin. So force yourself, not because you're weak, but because you are stronger than the patterns that try to keep you stuck. Push yourself. Not because you're behind, but because you are ready for the next chapter. Organize your life like someone who finally understands their value. Move like someone who knows their future is too important to gamble with. Walk with the confidence of someone who understands that order isn't just structure. It's preparation for the greatness that's coming. Your future is waiting for you to get ready, and this commitment, this discipline, this intentionality is how you start getting ready. Taking control of your life by creating intentional structure begins with the powerful realization that your days are not accidents waiting to happen. They are opportunities waiting to be shaped. Many people move through life on autopilot, waking up tired, reacting to problems, and ending the day unsure of where their time went. Without structure, life becomes a cycle of repeating the same patterns and hoping for different results. But when you decide to create intentional structure, you shift from survival to direction. You begin designing your life instead of drifting through it. You start understanding that every moment you organize is a moment reclaimed, a moment prepared, a moment aligned with who you're trying to become. Creating intentional structure doesn't mean controlling everything, but rather choosing what deserves your time, your energy, and your attention. It means waking up with purpose instead of panic. When you plan your day, even loosely, you give yourself clarity. You know what comes first. You know what can wait. You know what needs your focus and what needs your distance. This clarity reduces stress because you're not juggling everything at once. Structure becomes a form of self-respect. It's you saying, "My life matters enough to be managed well." You stop allowing distractions to steal hours from you. You stop letting other people dictate your pace. You stop allowing old habits to sabotage your progress. You begin to realize that without structure, even your greatest potential can be wasted. Intentional structure also forces you to confront your priorities. Many people say they want change, but their schedule doesn't reflect it. They want growth, but they don't make time for it. They want peace, but they live in chaos. When you create structure, you expose the gap between what you desire and what you're doing. That gap becomes a mirror showing you what needs to shift, where your commitments need to be adjusted, and what you must release if you want to move forward. Structure helps you make decisions from a place of clarity, not emotion. It supports your goals by creating space for them to breathe. Another part of taking control through structure is recognizing that discipline does not show up magically. It grows out of routine. When your days have rhythm, your life gains strength. When your mind knows what to expect, your productivity increases. You waste less time, procrastinate less, and gain more momentum. Small routines, waking up early, organizing your space, planning your tasks, scheduling downtime, may seem insignificant, but they create a foundation that can support big dreams. Without that foundation, everything feels shaky. With it, everything gains stability. Intentional structure also reduces the emotional overwhelm that comes from living in disorganization. When your life is chaotic, it becomes harder to think clearly, harder to make decisions, and harder to feel grounded. Structure brings peace. It creates room for rest. It helps you breathe easier because you're not constantly rushing or forgetting or scrambling. It gives you the freedom that comes from order, not restriction. When you know what your day looks like, you stress less about the unexpected because your mind isn't already cluttered. Most importantly, taking control through structure sends a message to your future. You are preparing for something greater. You're acting like someone who believes in the life ahead. You're moving like someone who understands that success doesn't come from chaos. It comes from consistency. Structure reflects commitment. Intentionality reflects maturity. And when you bring both into your life, you create a path where focus replaces fear, clarity replaces confusion, and progress replaces stagnation. By taking control through structure, you're not just organizing your life, you're elevating it. Removing physical and emotional clutter to make space for growth begins with acknowledging how much the things around you affect the things within you. Clutter is not just a messy room, a disorganized closet, or a desk filled with unfinished tasks. Clutter is also the lingering weight of old emotions, unresolved memories, unhealthy attachments, and outdated habits that no longer serve your life. When your environment is crowded, your mind becomes crowded. When your mind is crowded, your spirit becomes restless. And when your spirit is restless, you start carrying stress, frustration, and confusion that were never meant to stay with you. Clearing clutter becomes an act of inner cleansing, a way to reclaim your peace and create room for transformation. Physical clutter is often a reflection of emotional delay. You hold on to items you no longer need because a part of you is afraid to let go of the memories they represent. You avoid organizing your space because it forces you to confront the things you've been postponing. But every pile you ignore becomes a reminder of a version of you that you've outgrown. When you take the time to clear your physical environment, you are silently teaching yourself discipline, order, and self-respect. You are declaring to your mind that you deserve to live in a space that supports your growth, not suffocates it. A clean environment doesn't just look better, it feels better. It allows your thoughts to flow. It gives your energy direction instead of scattering it. It makes you more focused, more intentional, and more grounded. Emotional clutter, however, is even heavier. It's the bitterness from a relationship that hurt you. It's the guilt from mistakes you've already learned from. It's the fear you entertain every time you want to step into something new. It's the self-doubt that whispers you're not enough. Emotional clutter collects quietly, settling into your thoughts until it becomes part of your identity. You don't even realize how much space it takes up because you've grown accustomed to carrying it. But you can't grow while holding on to emotional weight that keeps dragging you backward. Releasing emotional clutter means letting go of narratives that no longer match who you're becoming. It means forgiving others, forgiving yourself, and choosing peace over pain. It means acknowledging that some emotions have expired and no longer deserve a place in your present. Making space for growth requires honesty. You must be willing to ask yourself what you are holding onto out of comfort, fear, nostalgia, or habit. It requires courage to release what is familiar, especially when the unknown feels intimidating. But you cannot create space for new blessings while holding onto old burdens. You can't step into new opportunities when your mind is occupied with past disappointments. Growth needs room, it needs air, it needs a heart light enough to carry new wisdom. As you remove clutter, both physical and emotional, you will begin to realize how much energy you've been losing without even noticing. You will feel lighter, clearer, more capable of making decisions that align with your purpose. You will also discover how much unnecessary noise you've been listening to, and how much clarity silence can bring. Space invites peace, peace invites clarity, and clarity invites transformation. This process is not a one-time event, it is a continuous practice. Just like a room collects dust, your heart and mind collect emotions and thoughts that need regular cleansing. The more consistently you clear your space, the easier it becomes to protect it. And the more you protect it, the more you grow. Removing clutter is not about erasing your past. It's about removing what blocks your future. It's about choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and evolution over stagnation. By releasing what weighs you down, you create space for who you are becoming. Building habits that support long-term success is less about sudden bursts of motivation and more about the quiet, consistent decisions you make every single day. Habits shape your future more than your dreams do, because dreams inspire you, but habits build the bridge that takes you there. What you repeatedly do becomes who you are, and who you are determines what you can achieve. Many people want big results, but continue practicing small patterns that work against their growth. Long-term success requires habits that match the future you are trying to create, not the comfort of the present you are trying to escape. A powerful habit begins with a simple choice repeated until it becomes automatic. You don't need to transform everything at once. You just need to begin. Even the smallest consistent action sets a foundation. Waking up a little earlier, planning your day, reading a few pages, exercising for 10 minutes, or organizing one part of your space. These small habits build discipline, and discipline builds identity. Once your identity changes, your results naturally follow. When you start seeing yourself as someone who honors commitments, someone who shows up even when they don't feel like it, someone who invests in their future, you begin to behave differently without forcing yourself. Your habits become part of you, but to build habits that lead to long-term success, you must also remove the habits that sabotage your progress. You cannot grow new patterns on top of old ones that drain your energy. If procrastination keeps showing up, if unhealthy routines steal your time, if distractions constantly pull you away from your goals, then success becomes harder not because you are incapable, but because your habits are fighting your progress. Identifying your harmful habits is an act of self-awareness, and replacing them with healthier ones is an act of self-respect. When you choose habits that align with your purpose, you begin to protect your energy and direct it toward what truly matters. Long-term success also requires habits that are rooted in sustainability. Anyone can push themselves for a few days, but true transformation happens when you build routines that you can maintain even on your hardest days. It's about creating a system that supports you, not pressures you. Systems help you keep moving when motivation fades. They carry you through seasons of stress, uncertainty, and fatigue. A system built on good habits becomes your anchor. It keeps you steady when life gets overwhelming, and it ensures that even when you move slowly, you never stop moving forward. Consistency is the secret, but consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means showing up more often than you disappear. It means choosing your goals more often than your excuses. It means forgiving yourself when you slip but refusing to stay where you fell. Every time you return to your habits, you strengthen them. Every time you repeat them, you reinforce your commitment to the person you want to become. Over time, the results begin to compound. What started as a small routine becomes a powerful lifestyle. What began as a simple habit becomes a new level of identity. The habits you build today shape the future you wake up in tomorrow. Long-term success is not built in a moment of excitement, but in the hundreds of quiet, private decisions no one sees. Your habits become your story, and when those habits align with your growth, your purpose, and your potential, they carry you toward a life you once only imagined. Creating a clear system that keeps your life in order is one of the most powerful ways to protect your future, because without a system, your mind carries weights it was never meant to carry. When everything in your life is scattered, your schedule, your priorities, your responsibilities, you spend more energy trying to figure out where to start than actually doing the work. A system frees that mental space. It turns chaos into direction, confusion into clarity, and pressure into progress. A system doesn't just organize your environment, it organizes your mind, and once your mind is organized, your life becomes easier to manage. It becomes easier to show up with intention instead of reacting to whatever demands your attention in the moment. A clear system is not about perfection, it is about structure. It's a commitment to stop living in a cycle of overwhelm and start living with purpose. You create a system by choosing what matters most and arranging your life around those priorities. It might be a morning routine that centers you, a weekly plan that keeps you accountable, or daily tasks that break big goals into small, doable steps. A system takes your goals out of your head and places them into actions you can track and repeat. It gives you something solid to lean on when your emotions are unstable or your motivation is low. Without a system, you rely on feelings to guide your decisions, and feelings change every day. But a system stays steady even when you don't. What makes a system powerful is its ability to reduce decision fatigue. Every time you have to decide what to do next, you lose energy. Every time you delay, hesitate, or second-guess yourself, you lose momentum. A system eliminates that. It tells you where to focus, what step comes next, and what can wait. It prevents you from drowning in your own to-do list by creating order and flow. When you follow a system consistently, you begin to trust yourself more. You stop doubting whether you're moving in the right direction because your structure keeps you aligned. You stop worrying about forgetting important tasks because your routine captures them. You stop feeling overwhelmed because everything has a place and a time. A clear system also protects your peace. When your life is disorganized, your spirit feels unsettled. You carry silent stress, worries about undone tasks, scattered responsibilities, and constant pressure. But when you have a system, that pressure decreases. You feel lighter because your mind is no longer trying to hold everything at once. You carry your life with more confidence because you are not depending on memory or motivation to keep you stable. You're relying on structure. And structure is stronger than emotion. Structure is stronger than procrastination. Structure is stronger than the temporary distractions that try to pull you away from your purpose. Your system is a reflection of how committed you are to your growth. It shows that you take your future seriously. It shows that you value your time, your energy, and your peace. A system doesn't make life perfect, but it makes life controllable. It gives you power where you once felt powerless. And when you build a system that supports your goals, you no longer hope for progress. You create it step by step, day by day, until your life begins to reflect the discipline and intention you invested into it. Letting go of what no longer serves you is one of the hardest but most freeing steps you will ever take on your journey to organizing your life. So much of the chaos you feel doesn't come from a lack of time or a lack of ability. It comes from holding on to things, people, habits, and identities that create clutter in your mind and weight in your spirit. You cannot create order while still trying to carry everything that once drained you, distracted you, or kept you stuck. Letting go is not about loss, it is about creating space. Space for new direction, new clarity, and new strength to enter. When you hold on to what is outdated, your life becomes crowded with unnecessary noise, and noise makes it impossible to move forward with intention. Most people stay disorganized because they are emotionally attached to the things that keep them that way. A version of themselves they feel guilty walking away from, a routine that feels familiar even when it is unhealthy, a relationship that is comfortable but draining, a mindset that provides an excuse but not growth. Letting go requires honesty. It requires you to face what has expired in your life and admit that you have outgrown it. That admission can be painful because it forces you to see the truth, but the truth is what sets you free. You cannot step into a new season while dragging the weight of an old one. Letting go also means understanding that you don't have to explain yourself to everyone. Not everyone will understand why you are changing, why you are creating boundaries, why you are choosing peace over chaos or discipline over comfort. That is okay. You are not letting go for them. You are letting go for your future. When you release what no longer serves you, you begin to feel lighter. You start to think clearly. You stop fighting battles that drain your energy and finally redirect that energy toward building the life you want. Order begins with subtraction, not addition. You cannot add structure until you first remove clutter. Letting go requires courage because it often feels like stepping into the unknown, but the unknown is where your growth lies. The unknown is where your future is waiting. Your past had a purpose, but it is not your permanent home. There are things you needed then that you simply do not need now. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Strength is acting on it. When you release what is no longer aligned with your purpose, you make room for what is. Room for better habits, better relationships, better opportunities, and a better version of yourself. You stop surviving and start building. Letting go is not a one-time decision. It is a daily discipline. Every day you must choose what deserves your attention and what doesn't, what feeds your growth and what starves it, what brings peace and what brings confusion. When you practice that discipline consistently, your life naturally becomes more organized because you are no longer weighed down by distractions that slow your progress. You begin to move with clarity, you begin to choose with confidence, you begin to build with intention. Letting go is the doorway to structure. It is the moment you stop making room for chaos and start making room for the life you were meant to create. Staying committed to growth is the anchor that keeps your life moving in the right direction, even when everything around you feels uncertain or overwhelming. Growth is not something that happens in a single moment. It is a continuous decision you make every day to become better, wiser, more disciplined, and more aligned with the life you want to build. Many people start strong but lose momentum when the process becomes uncomfortable. But true transformation is never comfortable. Growth stretches you, challenges you, and demands that you rise above your old patterns. It requires maturity to keep showing up even when you no longer feel motivated, and it requires strength to continue even when progress feels slow. Growth also means choosing long-term stability over short-term satisfaction. This is one of the hardest parts because your old habits will always try to pull you back. The mind will try to negotiate, telling you that skipping just one day won't matter, or that you can always start again tomorrow. But growth requires consistency. It requires discipline when motivation disappears. It requires the courage to keep going when you're tired and the humility to keep learning even when you think you already know enough. The people who transform their lives are not the ones who get everything right. They are the ones who refuse to give up on themselves. Commitment to growth also means being willing to face the parts of yourself that you used to ignore. You cannot grow without self-awareness. You have to confront your weaknesses, your fears, your excuses, and your emotional triggers, not to judge yourself or tear yourself down, but to understand what needs healing and what needs strengthening. Growth demands honesty because you cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. When you understand yourself deeply, you gain the power to break cycles that once controlled you. You begin to make better decisions, and those decisions slowly shape a better life. Another important part of staying committed to growth is surrounding yourself with environments and influences that support your evolution. Growth can't happen in spaces that encourage negativity, laziness, or complacency. Sometimes the hardest part of growing is realizing that not everyone can go with you. Some people are connected to the old version of you, not the rising one, and you cannot hold on to people, places, or habits that weaken your progress. Commitment to growth means choosing alignment over attachment. When you prioritize your growth, you naturally attract people and opportunities that match your direction. Staying committed also requires patience. Progress is never linear. You will have days of clarity and days of confusion, seasons of confidence and seasons of doubt, but every season plays a purpose. Even your struggles are part of your development. Every setback teaches resilience. Every disappointment teaches wisdom. Every delay teaches trust. And every challenge teaches endurance. Growth isn't just about achieving goals. It's about becoming a person who can carry those goals with strength, responsibility, and stability. You don't just build a life, you build the version of yourself who can sustain that life. And the most powerful part of committing to growth is that it transforms your identity. You stop seeing yourself as who you were and start seeing yourself as who you are becoming. That shift changes everything. It changes your choices, your habits, your relationships, and your expectations for your future. When you stay committed to growth, you become unstoppable because you learn how to keep moving forward no matter what tries to hold you back. Growth becomes your lifestyle, not a temporary phase. It becomes the way you think, the way you act, and the way you build your life. Through commitment, you create order. Through discipline, you create change. And through growth, you create a future that reflects your strength, your vision, and your purpose.